Welcome to the Soldier Athlete Farmer podcast. My name is Jeff Strong, and this is a podcast for men who want to grow strong in body, mind, and spirit. We take Paul's metaphors in 2 Timothy chapter 2 as a lens for connecting discipleship with life-giving masculinity. In Micah 6:8 we read, "He has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God?" I want to zoom in on that word humbly. What does that actually look like to walk humbly with God? Well, Paul gives us a really powerful picture through that metaphor of a farmer. Paul compares the Christian life to that of a farmer. That's 2 Timothy 2:6. And we can call to mind a farmer. We're going to have images of someone who's hardworking and patient, but something that might go unnoticed or unrecognized is that farmers also live and work with a deep awareness of their limitations. They plow, they sow, they water, they tend their field, but they are aware that they cannot command the sun to shine or the rain to fall. And so they live with a sense of having to be in submission to larger natural forces. And in the same way, humility is learning to live faithfully within our God-given limits, and then entrusting the harvest, the results of our life, to God. Humility is sometimes assumed to mean either minimizing yourself or denying your worth, but it's not about putting yourself down. True humility is faithfulness. True humility is truthfulness about who we are before God and other people. It's a sober recognition that we are creatures. We're not the creator, right? We're children of God and servants of God. We're not masters. We're not the sovereigns over our own little kingdom. The word humility itself comes from the Latin humilis, which means of the earth. And it shares the same root as humus, which is the word for soil. So if you've ever heard someone describe someone else as, oh, they're really grounded, I really like that person, they're very down to earth, that is a great synonym for humility, to be of the ground, to be down in the earth. To be humble is to be grounded, rooted in the reality of our earthly limitations, which is exactly what we see in the life of a farmer. This is why Paul's metaphor is so powerful, right? The farmer isn't humble in the sense that they are self-deprecating and they say, well, I don't matter and there's nothing I can do and the harvest is going to come either way. And no, he gets up early, he works hard, he labors in season, but he does so with an awareness that growth ultimately belongs to God alone. The image of this hardworking farmer reveals something important to us, because many of us resist humility. I think especially men sometimes resist humility because we see it as opposed to confidence. We think being confident means you have to be loud and to be the center of attention, to draw attention to yourself, to be always out front. And we think if to pursue humility means to kind of play quieter, shrink back from life, hide in the shadows, retreat from challenges. But instead of seeing humility and confidence as opposite ends of a spectrum, I think it's much more accurate to think of them as two sides of the same coin. And I say that because as you grow in humility, a genuine awareness of who you are, who you're not, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what you bring to the table, and also where some of your blind spots are, that enables you to actually live with greater confidence. Because real confidence doesn't come from trying to pretend you don't have blind spots, you don't have weaknesses, and that you can do it all and be it all, and trying to prove yourself, securing validation from other people. Confidence comes from knowing who you are in Christ, learning how to apply your gifts and talents as faithfully as you know how to do, and then trusting God to use those for His purposes. So humility allows us to take an honest inventory of who we are, our strengths and our weaknesses, and to be okay with the fact that we can't do it all. right? Even if you think about the metaphor of a farmer, a skilled, wise farmer knows he needs other people to bring in the harvest, right? He needs family members, he needs workers, he needs neighbors. He can't do everything on his own. No farmer who is wise and humble would operate from a sense of self-sufficiency. They know their limits. And so they enlist the help of other people, including God, and they understand that the work is bigger than just themselves. And it's from that kind of humility that the farmer can not only enlist the help of other people, but celebrate the gifts that others bring to help see that harvest fulfilled. Let me give you a concrete example. So if you think about a father and a son, right? No matter how strong that father is, no matter how wise he is, that father can't dictate the course of his child's heart. He can guide that child, encourage that child, discipline, nurture, bond, show up in amazing ways and love that child in a way that is genuinely remarkable. But none of those things will determine the path that child goes down. That father has to invest in that child, like a farmer invests in good soil and watering and tending that field. But that father has to ultimately entrust his child to God. And like the farmer, that father has to understand that he works within limits. And ultimately, it's going to be God who captures the heart of his child through some kind of revelatory experience. And that's humility in action. It's acknowledging that we aren't the captain of our souls. We aren't the masters of our destiny. We walk with a confident dependence on God. We submit to God's wisdom. We rest in his timing. Okay, so let's come all the way back to Micah 6:8. What does this mean for us practically, to walk humbly with your God? Well, it's to move through life with that farmer-like awareness that I have something to contribute. My effort and labor is important, so I'm going to be as faithful as I can. I'm going to love deeply. I'm going to invest deeply in the relationships and the opportunities around me. I'm going to pursue justice and kindness, but I can't control or demand certain results or harvest. I'm going to let go of that and entrust that to God. And when you do that, it's like a huge weight of the world comes off your shoulders, because humility frees you from that heavy, suffocating weight that comes with trying to be self-sufficient. And humility reorients us to live as someone who needs grace and is open to receiving grace, rather than someone who's trying to always willpower their way through life. Right? And so if you haven't heard this explicitly implicitly through what I've said, I want you to hear it explicitly, right? Humility is not weakness. It's actually a freedom to do what is yours to do, to love well, and to rest in God who brings the harvest. So as you go about your week, remember, you are freed in Christ from having to be the master of your harvest and then the captain of your soul and the one in control of your destiny. You're simply called to manage that field, your family, your relationships, your workplace, school, sports team. You're called to steward the field that God has given you. And so keep your hands in the soil, stay grounded, literally and spiritually, do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God. Entrust to God himself, the only one who can actually bring the fruit in his time. Entrust to him the results, and be expectant that if you are faithful in what you are called to do, he will be faithful in bringing growth at the right time. That's the way of the farmer, that's the way of humility, and that is the way of Christ.